So here's this man. He wants to know how to have eternal life. And so he's really asking, I've seen this life that's going on around you. How do I get in on that higher kind of life, that way of living? And Jesus, he responds, and one of the things he says is, there's nobody good. Are you just talking to me because you saw this stuff? Are you, the kind of, you see the outward manifestation? He said, what does Jesus do? He points to, there's only one, and that's God. And that's what this you see here is about. It's about God. Okay, then the guy, he says, he asks him these questions. You know the commandments. Do not murder. Do not commit adultery. Don't steal. Don't lie. Don't defraud. Honor your father and mother. He says, well, I've done those. I've done all those since I was a child. Well, you know what Jesus could do at that point very easily is say to the man, just right there in his face, simply and clearly, you're a liar. Because no one's done that. And Jesus being who he is, he knows that. But what does Jesus do? Jesus looks at him and he loves him. He believes this guy is a sincere guy. He really wants this. And then he responds to him further and he says, but you lack something. Because if you want to come on this higher level of life, this life that I represent, that you've seen, this thing that you're being drawn to, then good. I want you to come and join me in my compassion and my heart for the poor. So you've gathered all that stuff so far, but now it's time to rise to another level, a higher level, by getting rid of that stuff. Wellington Boone told me, my testimony, it isn't the most welcome thing in a lot of places because, you had all that stuff and then you got rid of it. But, it's not about getting rid of something. It's about what you take possession of. And when you take possession of Jesus Christ in your faith and he begins to fill you up, he'll change those things. It doesn't mean you're not supposed to have stuff. It means stuff's not supposed to have you. Everybody went, whew. Man, you didn't tell me I had to get rid of all my stuff. But Jesus' compassion to this man was about a different way of living, and it's no different for you and me. It doesn't mean all of you are supposed to sell everything you got and open a soup kitchen. But God is speaking to us about this issue of the poor. Why? Because it's about his heart, and he wants you to come to his heart. He wants to connect with you on a level different than you've been so far. Because I don't know how long you've known Jesus in a personal way, but it doesn't matter. There's more to it than you know about right now. And I don't care who you are. And the thing is, God, he wants to give it. That's his desire. And so what I'm here to share you is this very important part of it that you and I can enter into. He wants it to become somehow part of your life. That somehow you can, in an extroverted way, in an intentional way, find a way to do this. The poor are all over the place. If you can't find them, see me. I'll hook you up. I go to Africa every year, and it's I go to Ethiopia, one of the poorest countries in the world, and I see people there who are happy. They're enjoying life. They don't have water or electricity. Never mind an automobile and stuff. Most of the things you're praying about, that, God, our air conditioning's not working, and the car's not, our third car doesn't start, they don't even know about those things. It's confusing to us, I know, but there is joy beyond all this stuff. Well, who can do this? Who can do the stuff God's calling us? Everybody can. I'll tell you a quick story about someone unlikely. And her name's Connie. She lives in Ethiopia now. She's about this tall. She's real short. She's real shy. She doesn't, she's just the most quiet, reserved person I've ever known. And her and her husband left Ethiopia. They weren't married at the time, but during the time when the Derg came in, the communist government, there was much bloodshed and everything, they were able to get out of the country on student visas. They weren't married at the time. One went to India. She went to America. They corresponded later. He actually got saved when he was at the university reading his Bible. They met in America again, got married, and lived in this area. They lived in New York City. So that he could go to the seminary over here at Alliance Theological Seminary, she was a nanny. a servant, to families in the Upper East Side, Jewish families. A doctor. She raised their children. Then his sister wanted her to raise theirs, so she did. And over these years, that's what she did. And all the time she was there, in those families, in those homes, she never suggested to them that they go to church on Sunday. She never gave them a Bible. She never left tracts laying around. She just loved them. Where does that come from? Let's see. One guy asked Jesus one time, what's the most important thing? Well, I think that's Matthew 23. He says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. That's the first and greatest commandment. The second's like it. Love your neighbors yourself. All. Everybody say all. All. How much is all? All is all. All the law and prophets hang on those two commandments. You know, the gospel, I tell you, the more I understand it and read it and God shows me things, I realize how ridiculously simple it is. It is not complicated. But you know what? You can't do it either. You can say, well, I read that. I think I'll go do that. How many of us have tried that and know how that works? You don't have the capacity. But when the kingdom comes on the inside of you, when you allow Him to come in here, He'll do amazing things and you'll be amazed. You'll say things and do things that you're just amazed at. So what did Connie do? She just loved them. So what happens is, eventually God calls them back to Ethiopia. Now they're U.S. citizens living near the UN in Manhattan, college educated, pastoring the evangelical Ethiopian Church of New York City, and God calls them and they go back to one of the poorest nations in the world. That's just not very usual. When they go back, this young girl that she raised, the first one, named Rachel, she says, Mom and Dad, I'm having my bat mitzvah. I want to give my gifts to Connie and the orphanage. So they have their party, and she raises $9,000. They come from all these Jewish people. I have all their phone numbers, addresses, and stuff, because New York City Relief is the fiscal agent for them, so that if you gave a gift to the ministry in Ethiopia, you would get a tax deduction, and the money we wired out at the end of each month directly to them. So $9,000. Then a friend of hers, who didn't know Geb and Connie, but they knew this other family, this young lady, she was having her bat mitzvah, said, I want to do the same thing. Parents thought that'd be a wonderful thing, humanitarian thing to do. They raised $11,000. And then this family that never met Geb and Connie gave us a check a year ago for $50,000, a check this year for $60,000. The family that she raised, the first one, the doctor and his wife and their 3 kids and 2 other people to help take care of them, flew over there last year, this time of year, and stayed through Christmas. They traveled there at tremendous expense. This last year, where I was there for a month, I took this other gentleman whose daughter gave her bat mitzvah gifts with me, and he spent a couple of weeks and he made a movie called The Madman of McKelly. That's this guy, my friend, because with a tongue in cheek, because who would leave America as a U.S. citizen and go back to there? But he was so impacted by what he saw these people doing with their lives. So they're underwriting this group of people that all evangelicals know are unreachable with the gospel, called the Upper East Side of New York City, with the Jewish population. Evidently, God didn't know that. He didn't read that part, I guess. Because they're not only supporting the gospel of Jesus Christ, they're being drawn to it and they're participating in it. Who did that? A woman who was charismatic and a great preaching voice and could sing, and no, a lady who just loved them. You can do that. You know the people at work that are hard to get along with, that are everything but godly? You can love them. They don't expect it. Your neighbors that are difficult, you can love them if you let Him do it. I'm not saying you're going to get all warm and goosebumped, because you're going to, but God will allow you to love them. And this is what He's talking about here. This is what this message is. So Jesus says, the guy turns and he walks away, and he missed out on it. Of course, we don't know later what happened. I mean, I woke up to that fact one day, you don't know.